Welcome to your overview of the relationship paper, which is the final paper of Com Studies 210 for your online course. This is going to act as your final exam in this class. Now, you'll still have quizzes along the way. You have 5 quizzes, which act as my way to assess your knowledge of the concepts and that you understand the theory. And those quizzes will continue until the end of the quarter. But instead of giving you a traditional final exam, I'd like to give you this final paper instead. Now it is due on Friday, August 9th, which is before the quarter is over, but that is so you can complete it before you have to do your final assignments, which will continue until the very last week and the very last day. So I'm trying to do you a favor and also be able to get these graded to you in a timely manner so that you can see where your grade is at, hopefully by the end of week 8. Now there's a lot of parts to this, so I've posted some things online for you. Right now what you see on your screen is a PDF copy of the assignment, but you'll also notice on Canvas now, and I'll click for that right now, that I've posted a relationship final essay module. So let's take a look. So if I scroll out of here and I scroll all the way to the bottom, I'll see here it says final essay. Now you can click on that and it'll say relationship paper, and it also has a separate rubric for you to click on. However, if I open this up, you'll see that it's the same exact thing as the PDF and your rubric is right here. Now I'm not going to go over the rubric in its entirety. I want you to do that and be a responsible student and email me if you have any questions. What I will do is give you a quick assessment of the rubric. 20% is based off grammar and organization, so I highly recommend utilizing the Writing Center. They're very, very helpful when it comes to writing papers. They're not an editing service, but rather they can help you formulate ideas. Secondly, you'll see that 20% of your grade is based on how well you use the concepts. You need to define every concept that comes from the book that you use, even if I know you know it and you know I know it. This is to help assess that you're using the concept correctly. It's better to go in more detail than not. So for example, with stereotyping, there are actually a few steps to stereotyping. Don't just tell me what stereotyping is, but list those steps. You'll see another 20% is your use of personal examples that you incorporate into the paper. It's very important that your examples are clear. However, I would never force you to share anything that you don't want to share with me. So if you'd like to talk about a conflict in your relationship, please tell me as much as you're comfortable with, and you can change names and you can even omit details that you don't feel like you need to share. So for example, I've had students write papers about a conflict that broke trust in their relationship. I don't know what the issue was that broke the trust, but I know the communication that occurred after that and how the conflict was dealt with. Finally, 20% is your overall analysis, and another 20% is your personal reflection and recommendations that you would like to use in your relationship. Now, an analysis in your paper, which you should read over, explains that when you write about concepts and you provide examples, you need to ask one big question, and that is, how is this impacting my relationship? So let's say I decide to write about conflict. My brother Matthias, or I call him Matt, him and I deal with a significant amount of conflict, although we're getting better as we get older. But in our relationship, Matt is generally competitive with his conflict style, and I am more avoidant. I would define those terms, I would provide examples, and then I need to ask myself, how is this affecting our relationship? That's where the 20% for analysis comes in. Finally, that 20% for the personal reflection, that includes a summary of the state of your relationship, how you're feeling about it, and it also includes recommendations or tools from the class that you want to use to strengthen your relationship even if the relationship is already strong. In the grading criteria for this, I'll be looking that you've defined the tools from the class, such as the pillow method or the language of responsibility, and I'll be looking for examples of how you might use those tools in your relationship and how it would strengthen it. Again, this is even if your relationship is already strong. In the grading criteria for this, if you've chosen to write about someone that is no longer in your life for whatever reason, please analyze what you wish you would have used in the relationship or what you learned and tools that you will use in personal, different relationships. So that's the grading criteria. You'll see here that I'll grade everything directly on Canvas. Here you'll see an outcome. You don't need to worry about that. There's no grading for it, and it's simply my own tracking for me to see how well have I explained this paper. So don't worry about the last part. So let's scroll up. I'm going to jump back to the PDF. I feel like it's a bit of an easier way to review the paper, and I'm going to widen this up. So I've gone over the grading criteria with an assumption that you've already read through the assignment, but I will give you some tips and tricks to help you better prepare for this assignment, as well as some things that I think can really help you. So first of all, this assignment is 5 to 6 pages, and you're to write about a significant interpersonal relationship in your life. Generally, the most successful papers are those in which the student wants to devote about 3 to 4 weeks thinking about this person. So yes, it is really important that you choose somebody that you want to write about. Now, what you'll be writing about is how 3 concepts from our textbook have an effect on your relationship. And when I say 3 concepts, I'd like you to pull things from 3 different chapters. You're more than welcome to study chapters that we have not gone over yet in class. If you have questions about those chapters and you want to verify things, please let me know. Send me a message on Skype, Canvas, or email. The relationship can be someone that's currently in your life, or the relationship can be someone who is no longer in your life. The age doesn't matter. The language that you use, whether you're a native English speaker or you use a different language, that doesn't matter, as long as you communicate with this individual. Now, be mindful about the age that you do choose. For example, my 2-year-old nephew, while we have a relationship, he can't really form good sentences yet. But perhaps if I had a child who was 4 years old and I had a relationship with them that I wanted to analyze, and I knew they can talk back, well, then that's just fine. You can choose whoever you want as long as you're able to communicate with them. And please, only choose one person that you're going to write about. I know that can be one of the hardest parts because sometimes we have siblings or we have children that we want to write about, but you have to pick one relationship. So you'll pick 3 concepts and you'll pick one person to write about. As you scroll through this, you'll see that we've gone through some of the steps already. Step 1, pick our relationship. Step 2, reflect on concepts that I feel are evident in the relationship. I'll show you my outline in just a moment of my brother Matthias and I. And then step 3 is to actually write the paper. So how you want to do this is in about a half page, describe the relationship and why you've chosen that person, and give me a thesis statement. A thesis statement is a summary statement describing what you will be doing in this paper. So in this case, your thesis statement could be something like this. While the relationship with my brother Matthias is strong, we still struggle in certain areas of communication. I will be analyzing how language, listening, and conflict impact the relationship between my brother and me. Think about it as a way of telling me what you're going to do, and then in the body of the paper, you do it, and then in the conclusion, you tell me what you did. So, about a half page just to describe the relationship. You don't need to give me much more than that because I'll be able to figure out how your relationship is going from your examples. Then, in general, the next 3 to 4 pages should be your analysis. I really like to break this down. So let me show you the outline I have. This is available to you in the final essay module, and it's titled Matthias and Me, a Friendly Sibling Rivalry. So we'll click on that, and right here you can see I've just done some brainstorming. So I've got some ideas. How do Matt and I communicate? I just put them down. I typed them in, not judging them, not thinking about them, just what concepts do I feel Matt and I need to work on? And then from there, I've developed my outline. So you'll see here, I've got my intro and my thesis. That's about a half page. Then I decided language was one of the biggest things we need to work on. And in this case, I'll probably focus on you language and static evaluation. So what you want to do is follow this formula. This can be really helpful. First, define the concepts that you're using. Second, provide examples. And third, analyze. How is this impacting my relationship? So it's not enough to just report and say, this is what's going on. But instead, I need to take it a step further and say, and what is it doing to Matt and me? How is it affecting us? You'll see something real important in the outline, and that says connection. Every time I transition from one concept to the next, I have to be sure to connect them together. You can't write about 3 separate concepts that have absolutely no impact on the other. So in this case, my connection might be, because Matt and I use abstract language, you language, and static evaluation, we both become very defensive and insensitive listeners. Then I go into my next concept. I've decided to write about a page on listening, and I will go through the same process. And I'll repeat this. So it's good to think about this as a formula for your paper. Now, in each section, please split this up into multiple paragraphs. A great way to think about it is perhaps having one paragraph that defines and provides your examples, and another paragraph that does your analysis. You don't need to have 1.5 pages of one whole paragraph. In fact, please don't do that. Finally, as you see the end of my outline, here I have conclusion and solutions, which is 1.5 pages for me. It might be much less for you. But what you need to do here, like I said in the grading criteria prior, is to tell me some solutions you have for your relationship. And again, as I said earlier, if the relationship is over, what would you have done differently, or what would you like to use in future relationships?